Just half a year ago, this 14-gallon tank was a paradise for my orange Sakura and blue dream shrimp. Also, guppies were thriving in this tank. It had the exact right amount of plants and was just a wonderland for my animals. But fast forward to today, and this tank became a mess. You cannot see through the front pane anymore because there's algae and lime everywhere, so I had to take razor sharp measures against it. Literally. I took my razor blade out and tried to start cleaning the front glass. As you can see, once the front glass gets cleaned, the beautiful crystal clear water behind gets revealed. After some thorough cleaning, the tank's front window looks clean again. The next step is to cut back some of the plants. The plants have really overtaken in this tank, so I'm gently trying to trim back most of the bigger plants. And as you can see here, I'm struggling with some of these leaves because this is a background plant that is also growing in the background. But if you only have a 14-gallon tank, everything is the back and foreground at the same time. So if you want to insert these big plants, you really have to trim them back. Otherwise, your fish and shrimp won't have any space to swim left. That's what I'm doing here. For that, I'm using my special aquarium scissors and I try not to hurt any of the fish or shrimp, and the plants will grow back in no time because there's not that big of a nutrient layer, but the excrements of the fish help to provide nutrients to the plants, and that's how the whole ecosystem works basically. So I'm trimming or cutting back some of the plants while just completely removing entire other plants that are growing in the foreground and just blocking my view into the back of the tank. This tank has been neglected now for some weeks or rather months. I mean, I've been adding water here and there and I've been feeding the fish, of course, daily, but I didn't do a major maintenance to this tank for the last few months because actually I got married, so I didn't really have time to focus on YouTube. Also took many days off from work for this beautiful occasion. Of course, I didn't have so much time. So you can see that these plants here, the hygrophila plants, have grown like small trees in the background here. The shrimp are hiding in them and they look really healthy, but I think it's time to create some more swimming space for the fish and for the shrimp. I think the only species that's going to be a little bit bothered by that is all of the snails that are in this tank, but I mean, the main focus of this tank is to provide a good, healthy living space for shrimp and for my guppy fish. So I'm just going to remove most of the bigger plants, especially in the foreground. And here I'm also planting some foreground plants now that won't block the view. I use them from another scape that I have. And I just slowly and gently insert them into the substrate here in the front. And these plants will never outgrow this tank, but they might outgrow the tank, but in fact they will never block the view into the back section of the tank because these plants maybe get 1 inch tall or maybe not even 1 inch, maybe half an inch, so 1.5 centimeters roughly. So they are the perfect plants to add into the foreground, and they usually grow extremely slow, especially compared to the other plants that I have in this tank. And this tank, I already mentioned it in one of my previous videos from half a year ago, has also some normal just house plants in them or in it, like ivory and a monstera plant as well that grows out of the tank, that is also taking up many nutrients. And after adding these plants into the front section, I can also start to gently add some water back in to refill the tank. And now, of course, because I removed many plants with roots, it's extremely murky. You can see the murkiness of the water in this sped up version of the video. So the speed at the moment is 100x. And you can see it takes forever to clean. And what some people would do at this point is to add some cleaning agent or some chemical to this tank in order for it to clean up faster, to have it look pretty faster. But I don't do this because I think it's unnecessary. All you need is a little bit of time. And also the snails, you can see one of them, one of the zebra nerites going all around the tank here. They help with cleaning everything and it just takes some time. So after 1 or 2 hours, usually it's relatively clean again or clear, but you cannot really see in the back section of the tank. And then the next day it looks amazing again. So this tank has really gone from extremely dirty, extremely over planted, I would say, and here you can see it a little bit faster again, to just crystal clear the next day. And now let's have a look at which species were hiding behind this thick film of lime and algae before. Now we have a clear view into the tank. Of course, we have the main species, the orange sakura variety of the Neocaridina shrimp. Neocaridina davidi shrimp are shrimp that usually overpopulate smaller tanks very fast if they are kept in the right conditions. And there was sort of overpopulation in the past, so they've, I think, started with 5 specimens. So I think we had 2 or 3 females and 2 males at the beginning. This was 1 year ago, and now in the meantime we had like 30-40 of them. I also added 2 blue dream shrimp and 2 red riley shrimp, but I think they didn't reproduce, and they also did not survive until now, because their lifespan is usually relatively short, roughly a year I would say, maybe a bit longer. But usually what I see is that they reproduce so fast that you always have a colony of shrimp. And this shrimp here is grazing on this mid section, on this root here, and it seems to enjoy it. It seems to be healthy, but there's just not so many shrimp left. You saw at the beginning of this video the scene with all of these shrimps chilling in the foreground and in the background, grazing and enjoying their lives and just reproducing like crazy. And now the shrimp population has gone down to maybe 3 to 4 Neocaridina shrimp. Only the orange sakura variety is left. And this is a bit worrying for me because I don't know why. So there's multiple potential explanations for that. Maybe I overfed, so the guppies reproduced too fast, and then I forgot to feed them, so the guppies didn't have food left and ate all of the baby shrimplets. That might be one potential explanation. Another potential explanation might be that there was a problem with the filter, that maybe because I have a net around the filter that I use in this aquarium, because it's just a pond pump, and maybe this net was off for some days and then shredded basically all of the baby shrimps. But I don't really remember that this happened. And a fourth, and in my eyes the most likely explanation, is that there's currently a heat wave in Germany, and for the last few weeks it's been extremely hot from time to time. So sometimes we have 40 degrees Celsius or 38 degrees Celsius in Germany, roughly 104 Fahrenheit, which is extremely hot. And I think that might also be a potential explanation. I don't think that the shrimp would not generally tolerate this temperature. I'm sure they do, because they come from tropical countries, right? But I think the temperature change might be the cause, because other than that, nothing really changed. I do very little to no maintenance to this tank, as always, so that's my potential explanation or possible explanation. Then, something else that came up while I gave the last update of this tank are these little tiny snails here. I don't know what species they are. I did a Google photo research or photo search, and I didn't find out what kind of snail this is, what species this is. At the beginning I thought they are bladder snails, just like any other bladder snail I have in my tank, or probably any freshwater aquarist in Central Europe has in their tank, because they are pest snails in nature and they are quite abundant. And if you get plants, usually there's a huge amount of eggs from bladder snails on them. So I just thought, yeah, probably bladder snails. But this snail looks a bit different. The shape of the snail looks a little bit like the shell shape of a ramshorn snail, but they are very tiny, so they are definitely not ramshorn snails. Also, they are in this bladder snail like grayish greenish color, and they are very slow. As you can see, this is normal speed here. If we speed it up a little bit, the snail, you can see that it really moves very, very slowly. Even with 20x speed, it's moving very slowly. And this is quite an interesting snail. I mean, there are also bladder snails in this tank, as you can see here, But these tiny little snails, they are a little bit different and almost translucent. You can almost see through them, and I think they are very interesting. Like, I always like to have biodiversity in my tanks, and if anyone knows what the species of this snail is, I would really appreciate a comment below and under this video, because I want to know what's going on in my tanks, and I'm sure that I've one day just added like floating hornwort or something like this from a local pond or lake, and they probably were hitchhiking the plants from the other lake, or from like a natural lake here in Germany, and that they've got in like this, or maybe through a plant or something. But what is weird is that they are not present in any of my other tanks, and usually if I have such a small snail that reproduces fast, and they do reproduce fast because the tank is full with them or filled with them, then they are also present in all of my other tanks. I'm sure you've experienced a similar situation, and this is weird because I only have them in my orange sakura guppy tank yet. So would be interesting to know what kind of snail species it is, if it is harmful in any sort or way, and if you have any experience with them. Would highly appreciate it if you could comment below. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like and subscribe to my channel. If you are interested in how I added Orthosynchus catfish, which are great algae eaters and look like tiny sharks, click on the video on the right hand side here. Or if you want to see my most recent video, click on the video on the left hand side.